What makes a good pizza? Ask anyone and they'll probably tell you the same sort of thing. A crisp, flavorful crust is an absolute must. The cheese should be completely melted and well distributed. Hollywood certainly seems like an intimidating place to work no matter how old you are, but there's no question that getting started as a kid can be a bit tough. The toppings, naturally, should be of the highest quality. Sure, you get fame, acclaim, and some pretty big paychecks at a young age, but the intense pressure placed on child actors can be difficult at best and destructive at worst. With that said, there are plenty of stars who got their start when they were young and have managed to avoid the Hollywood craziness, whether they're still acting or have changed careers entirely. Greasy is bad. While some former child actors are still working in front of the camera, others work in a huge variety of careers, from writers to fashion designers. Doughy is bad. Burnt is a disaster. Those are the core tenets of a really decent pizza, and they're not exactly complicated, but it's often surprising how many places can get it wrong. A good pizza place should, as some matter of priority, serve good pizza. From sets of famous twins to young television doctors, from pairs of siblings to Disney Channel superstars, here's where all these famous former child actors ended up, and what they're doing today. Mara Wilson went from acting to writing in the early 1990s. One cherubic child star stole hearts across the world, Mara Wilson. After earning fame and acclaim for playing the youngest daughter of Sally Field and Robin Williams in Mrs. That's the criteria we're focusing on with these rankings, although other factors, such as value for money or the company's own ethical record, are also likely to make a mark on the list. Doubtfire, Wilson appeared in the 1994 remake of the classic film Miracle on 34th Street. However, you probably know her best for her leading role in Matilda, Roald Dahl's classic story of a sweet, well-read girl with amazing powers. Sadly, a personal tragedy caused Wilson to stop acting when she was younger. While the child star was filming Matilda, her mother passed away due to complications from breast cancer, leaving her grieving. From the heavyweight names, to the up-and-coming chains, to the stalwarts of American pizza making, these are the very best and the very worst of what the country has to offer. 10. Though her co-stars Danny DeVito and Rhea Perlman were emotional touchstones for the young actress, she stepped away from acting in the years that followed. Wilson ultimately attended New York University, where she performed a one-woman show about her past, and in 2016, she also released a book about her experiences as a child star. Papa John's is one corner of the great triumvirate of delivery pizza chains. Unfortunately, great is taking the definition here of prominent, not of tasty. The menu itself is decent enough. You've got all the classics, margarita, veggie, sausage and pepperoni. That kind of thing. But the only dishes that could really be considered inventive just come across as a little bizarre. Hawaiian barbecue chicken? Tropical luau? Spinach Alfredo? Really? Then there are the pizzas themselves. According to Wilson herself, her acting days are over, and these days, she focuses exclusively on writing. Macaulay Culkin has stayed in the public eye with his huge eyes, endearing attitude, and clear comedic chops. Macaulay Culkin was catapulted to stardom thanks to Chris Columbus's 1990 film Home Alone. Practically everything we mentioned before about what makes a good pizza is lacking here. Culkin portrayed young Kevin McAllister, left behind when his parents go on a holiday trip. The crust and dough is often airy and soft. Though Culkin had already appeared in Uncle Buck in 1989 with John Candy, Home Alone was an even bigger success, spawning sequels and making Culkin one of the most famous young actors of his era. After appearing in 1992's Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, 1994's Richie Rich, and 1991's My Girl, among other films, Culkin took a break from acting to attend school, but before long, he returned, ready to change his image altogether with daring, edgy films like Party Monster and Saved. The cheese is lacking, and they're just greasy enough to make you hate yourself for eating them, though nowhere near as bad in this sense as some of Papa John's peers. Despite the fact that Culkin's roles have been relatively small throughout the years, he's certainly stayed in the public eye, from high-profile advertisements lampooning his Home Alone success to his Odd Velvet Underground cover band to other comedy ventures. In 2020, Culkin teamed up with Ryan Murphy to appear in future installments of the creator's anthology series, American Horror Story.
Kieran Culkin has found success as an adult after his big brother Macaulay won over audiences in Home Alone and Uncle Buck. It was time for Kieran Culkin, who appeared alongside Macaulay in both Home Alone movies in a small role, to take center stage. Worst of all, though, is their special garlic dipping sauce, which has arguably inflicted more misery upon mankind than most wars. Avoid. 9. Like his brother, the younger Culkin also began his career as a child actor, working alongside Steve Martin and Diane Keaton as the adorable Mattie in 1991's Father of the Bride and 1995's Father of the Bride, Part 2. Years later, Culkin reprised his role when writer Nancy Meyers penned a COVID-19-inspired third film in the Father of the Bride franchise, where he appeared with the original cast, but by 2020, Culkin was plenty famous in his own right. Papa Murphy's Look. Just take it from us. Never trust your pizza with someone who refers to themselves as Papa. The biggest problem with Papa Murphy's pizzas, aside from the fact that you have to bake them yourself, is the crust. Their signature range of pizzas come on a crust thinner than a B-movie plot. Their gourmet delight pizzas, which, according to the restaurant, are sophisticated recipes, come on a crispy thin crust, which practically defies the laws of physics. But hey, it's not all bad news. If you're after a pizza which exists in the third dimension, you can also opt for their stuffed pizzas. That's not a stuffed crust pizza, by the way, that's a pizza that is entirely stuffed. The Neapolitans would freak. Why must our only options be gluttony or starvation? Pizzas which don't snap in half when they're picked up and pizzas which aren't literally bursting at the seams are not mutually exclusive. Find the middle ground. Papa Murphy's. 8. Uno Pizzeria and Grill ready for some controversy? Great, here it is. Deep dish pizza is not pizza. It's pie. That same year, Culkin scored an Emmy nomination for his role as the outlandish, boorish Roman Roy on HBO's hit drama Succession, where he is joined by an all-star cast that includes Brian Dennehy and Jeremy Strong to tell the story of the rich, corrupted Roy family. Kieran may be the younger Culkin, but he's certainly achieved plenty of success on his own. Amandla Stenberg has thrived since The Hunger Games. Amandla Stenberg may have made her film debut in 2011 at just 13 years old in the Zoe Saldana-led action flick Colombiana. But most audiences will recognize Stenberg from her breakout role in the first Hunger Games film in 2012. Adapted from Suzanne Collins' book trilogy, The Hunger Games movies imagined a dystopian world where impoverished families must send their children into a demented, horrifying fight to the death every single year. Stenberg plays the tiny yet incredibly smart Rue, who ends up teaming up with Jennifer Lawrence's protagonist, Katniss Everdeen. Though Rue loses the games and her life, her tragic death spurs Katniss to revolt against a corrupt system. In the years since The Hunger Games, Stenberg has continued acting. Perhaps most notably, Stenberg led a high-profile and acclaimed adaptation of the young adult novel The Hate U Give in 2018 as Star Carter, who witnesses a police officer kill an unarmed, young black man. Stenberg has also appeared in television projects like 2013's Sleepy Hollow and 2020's Mr. Our Full apologies to the people of Chicago, because they take this sort of thing incredibly seriously for some reason, but it's true. Eddie, as well as films like 2017's Everything and 2018's When Hands Touch. Neil Patrick Harris went from one iconic role to another. One of the most famous child stars of all time. Neil Patrick Harris earned fame and acclaim as the title character of Doogie Howser, M.D., which began its run in 1989 with Harris as a genius boy doctor who could solve basically any medical mystery. Nothing that could ever feasibly be mistaken for a birthday cake has any right to call itself a pizza. With that out of the way, let's move on to Uno Pizzeria and Grill, the chain that invented the deep dish pizza. Harris could have easily retired after the success of the show, but instead, he kept working, ultimately becoming one of the most popular television actors of his generation. After lampooning his own self-image in 2004's Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, Harris took his next big television role. They might take center stage on the restaurant's menu, and Uno does seem to enjoy making a big deal about how great they are. But, as we've established already, they're not actually pizzas, and so do not qualify for a prime spot on this list. Let's look at their thin crust options instead then, which, honestly, aren't too bad as far as the major chains go. Not a lot on offer, unfortunately, but they taste relatively decent. Looking at you here, John, and the crusts are at least perceptible to the human eye. Looking at you here, Murphy. 7.
Little Caesars. Little Caesars is a heavyweight pizza chain, no doubt about that. It's just a shame the pizzas are so lightweight. In 2005, Harris joined the cast of CBS sitcom How I Met Your Mother as the womanizer with a heart of gold, Barney Stinson, for the show's entire 9-season run. He's also appeared in shows like Netflix's A Series of Unfortunate Events. From dramatic turns in Gone Girl to his Tony Award-winning run on Broadway in Hedwig and the Angry Inch, Harris, who has 2 children with his husband David Burtka, has remained one of Hollywood's most beloved and recognizable faces for years. Doogie may have been an iconic role, but clearly, Harris was able to rise above it to create even more memorable performances throughout the years. Josh Peck and Nickelodeon were a good team. Nickelodeon spawned plenty of young stars during its heyday, thanks to ensemble comedies like All That, which introduced future Saturday Night Live standout Kenan Thompson to the world, and The Amanda Show, the latter of which was led by Amanda Bynes. The sauce they use is actually kind of great, but the dough is chewy and the cheese is nothing special. More than that, though, is the sense of unease that comes too often with eating a Little Caesars pizza. The nagging voice at the back of your head which keeps telling you that you could be eating something better. Though a fair amount of familiar faces popped up on The Amanda Show, including comedian Taran Killam, it also helped launch some careers within the network, and when it came to a young Josh Peck, the series served as a launching pad for his next big project. After starting out on The Amanda Show, Peck went on to headline Drake and Josh, a Nickelodeon sitcom, alongside Drake Bell, which spawned a few spin-off films and ran for 4 seasons. We're not sure what causes it, rooted in a certain je ne sais mais, perhaps, but it's always there. If you happen to arrive just as they're taking a fresh batch out of the oven, you might be pleasantly surprised, but chances are, your hot and ready pizza will have been that way for a long, long time before it gets to you. It's not all bad, though. Since then, Peck has continued acting. In recent years, he's appeared with John Stamos in shows like Grandfathered and in Fox's short-lived Pitch. There are plenty of choice, the sides are occasionally decent, and their rectangular deep dish pizzas at least have the sense to not masquerade as real pizzas by coming in a circular shape. All in all, thoroughly average. 6. Domino's. Remember that episode of The Simpsons where Bart and Homer set up a business selling grease to pretty much anyone who'll take it? Well, that's basically Domino's. The second corner of the Great Triumvirate, Domino's has carved out an incredibly comfortable place for themselves in the American pizza industry since their foundation in 1960. Unfortunately, their pizza doesn't quite match their reputation. The toppings are great, we'll give them that. There are plenty of them on offer too, which comes in handy if you're opting for a create-your-own shindig instead of one of the pre-made items. Beyond that, though, there's not a lot going for them. Currently, Peck runs his own podcast, Curious with Josh Peck, and is slated to appear in Disney Plus' upcoming Turner and Hooch reboot as Turner himself. Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen went fashion-forward for a certain generation of young girls. Their childhoods were defined by 2 famous twins, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, who rose to prominence as the infant Michelle Tanner on Full House before starring in their own films. The garlic-seasoned crust makes a hell of a mess. The edges are never quite crispy enough, and the things are just drenched in grease. Now, that's all fine and dandy if you're looking for a quick fix indulgence after a night on the town. In fact, few chains do comfort pizza better, but it's just no good the rest of the time. After the overwhelming success of Full House, which cast both twins as Michelle at just 6 months old, the Olsens continued their winning streak, and began appearing in their own movies by the time they were 6 years old. Nobody likes a soggy slice. 5. Pizza Hut. At last, we come to the final corner of the Great Triumvirate, and by far the best. Between theatrical releases like It Takes Two and New York Minute to direct-to-video films like Passport to Paris, as well as several lines of merchandise for pre-teenagers, the Olsen twins were everywhere for most of the 1990s and 2000s. However, after 2004, the twins turned 18 and officially left acting behind, but they've remained relevant throughout the years thanks to their work in the fashion industry. Pizza Hut is the best chain pizza you're going to get. That's still not quite really good pizza.
There are loads of choices on the menu. The toppings aren't too shabby. The crust is all right. And the cheese tends to be gooier and smoother than that found at their biggest rivals. What's more, Pizza Hut's stuffed crust pizzas are the only gluttonous indulgence we're going to make any time for on this list because, if we're being completely honest, they are actually a really good idea. Together, the Olsen twins have created high-end fashion lines that include Elizabeth and James, named for their siblings, and The Row, both of which have proven enormously successful. So sue us. We're not exactly in Pizza Valhalla yet. Sadly, Pizza Hut's grease factor is a little high and the pizzas, just like those at Papa John's and Domino's, still tend to be massively overpriced. But things are certainly starting to look up. 4. However, there is one Olsen who's still acting. You may recognize the twins' younger sister, Elizabeth, from her role as Wanda Maximoff in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Haley Joel Osment couldn't predict where his career would go. If you watch the 1994 Best Picture winner Forrest Gump closely, you might notice a very young Haley Joel Osment appear as Forrest, Tom Hanks' son. Just a few years later, Osment would finally score a huge starring role in M. Night Shyamalan's 1999 film The Sixth Sense. As Cole Sear, Osment perfectly portrayed a young boy who can see ghosts that don't know they've already died, and he even earned an Academy Award nomination for his performance. Pieology is basically Subway for pizza. In the years that followed, Osment continued his acting streak with films like Pay It Forward and AI Artificial Intelligence, as well as voice appearances in movies like The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Osment's career has never returned to the heights he reached with The Sixth Sense, but in recent years, the talented actor has shown up in small appearances on popular shows like HBO's Silicon Valley, Amazon's The Boys, and FX's What We Do in the Shadows. You walk in and customize your pizza from start to finish at the counter. Everything – crust, sauce, cheese, meats, toppings, and, after bake, sauces – is fully customizable. To many, Osment is still the little boy who can see dead people, but he's continued working steadily since his breakout role. Hilary Duff never quite left Lizzie McGuire behind. In 2001, Disney Channel viewers found their new favorite series, Lizzie McGuire, which told the story of an average, lovable middle schooler named Lizzie McGuire, Hilary Duff, just trying to get through the 7th grade. Throughout the series' 2 seasons, Duff won over audiences everywhere with her hilarious yet heartfelt performance as Lizzie, and ultimately, the show proved so successful that it even spawned its own feature film, The Lizzie McGuire Movie, released in 2003. Duff has never truly left the role of Lizzie behind. Though it was cancelled in 2020, she was even set to headline a Lizzie McGuire reboot. But she's continued working through the years, both as a musician and an actress. After the success of Lizzie McGuire, Duff appeared in teen fare like 2003's Agent Cody Banks, 2004's A Cinderella Story, and both Cheaper by the Dozen remakes alongside Steve Martin in 2003 and 2005. The choice on offer is nothing short of spectacular. 5 crusts, 7 sauces, 6 cheeses and a long, long list of meats and toppings means that pretty much the only way to make your pizza more personal is to make the whole thing yourself. The pizzas themselves aren't exactly huge, they're definitely nothing compared to the behemoths sold by its nationwide rivals. But your heart and arteries will probably thank you for it. Even better, the ingredients are all fresh and tasty enough to mean that, whichever pizza you do choose, you're unlikely to go unsatisfied. Throw in the fact that Pieology is a family-owned chain with some pleasantly wholesome origins and you've got the foundations for a really great restaurant. 3. She also recorded huge albums like 2003's Metamorphosis. Duff has also returned to television as an adult, starring in Darren Star's delightful comedy Younger as publishing executive Kelsey Peters since 2015. Dylan and Cole Sprouse brewed up different careers as adults. If you're an Adam Sandler fan, you probably remember his silly yet emotional 1999 comedy Big Daddy. And if you do, you definitely remember his adorable adopted on-screen son, Julian. California Pizza Kitchen, self-professed inventors of the barbecue chicken pizza, have long been the restaurant of choice for anyone who wants the comfort of a major chain without any of the self-loathing that follows after buying from one. Their range of pizzas is nothing if not ambitious. Shrimp scampi, steak, wild mushrooms and Thai chicken all feature on their own pizzas. But what makes CPK's options infinitely more appealing than some of the innovative dishes we've already seen from, for example, Papa John's, is the quality of the ingredients used. It's much easier to stomach the idea of a club chicken pizza when you're looking at toppings that include applewood smoked bacon, avocado, wild arugula, torn basil, and romaine, tossed in lemon pepper mayo. It really feels like they've put effort into coming up with something interesting. Like a chef has created these pizzas rather than, say, a marketing team. 2. Bertucci's. If you ever take a look at how the best pizzas you've ever had were all made, you're likely to find a single common denominator: a wood-fired oven. This role was the big screen debut for young twins Dylan and Cole Sprouse, who would go on to work with Sandler again in movies like 8 Crazy Nights and occasionally take on their own roles. Cole appeared briefly on Friends as Ben Geller, while Dylan did not. Nowhere is this clearer than at Bertucci's, a 37-year-old chain based out of Somerville, Massachusetts. The signature pizzas on their menu tend to be more Italian in style than your run-of-the-mill chain. Expect to see things like prosciutto, ricotta, balsamic fig glaze or pesto rather than, say, pineapple or barbecue sauce, while the pizzas themselves are thin, but thin in that nice, crispy and traditional Italian style, rather than thin in the frozen supermarket pizza sense. The wood-fired aspect of their production also means that Bertucci's pizzas are likely to be cooked just right, with the toppings nicely roasted and the base defined by that smoky, heady taste that you just can't get with a normal oven. In 2005, the dynamic duo got their own series, The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, on the Disney Channel. Dylan and Cole played twins Zack and Cody, who live at a luxurious hotel in San Francisco. After a spin-off and a television movie, the Sprouse twins left their acting careers behind temporarily to attend college. For sheer Italian authenticity, this is your best option. 1. The Sprouses attended New York University from 2011 to 2015. After that, Cole ultimately returned to television as Jughead Jones on the CW's Riverdale in 2018, while Dylan runs the All-Wise Meadery in the Williamsburg neighborhood of Brooklyn. Anna Chlumsky graduated to success with Veep. When it comes to childhood tearjerkers, few films loom quite as large as 1991's My Girl. Mod Pizza. Now this is pizza royalty. The story of the close friendship between young Vada Sultanfus, played by Anna Chlumsky, and Thomas J. Mod's pizzas are as customizable as the ones you'd find at Pieology. You can choose your sauce, cheeses, and toppings from a list of over 30, or opt for something off the pre-made menu. Senate, Macaulay Culkin. My Girl has one of the most tragic endings in cinematic history, thanks in large part to the emotional central performances by Chlumsky and Culkin. After appearing in 1994's My Girl 2 without Culkin, Chlumsky took a significant break from acting and attended the University of Chicago, ultimately graduating with a degree in international studies in 2002. However, Chlumsky still wanted to act, and after training at New York City's Atlantic Acting School, she booked the role of a lifetime as Amy Bruckheimer on HBO's biting political satire Veep. Alongside Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Tony Hale, and a whole host of other talented comedians, Chlumsky shined as the uptight, eternally stressed Amy, and earned 6 Emmy nods for her supporting role. If you were a fan of My Girl as a child and haven't caught Veep yet, it might be shocking to see little Vada display such a foul mouth, but there's no denying that Chlumsky's performance on Veep is a comedic tour de force. Jonathan Lipnicki has continued to show us his talent when it comes to instantly recognizable child stars. Few faces are as familiar as Jonathan Lipnicki, who cornered the market on portrayals of precocious children in the 1990s and 2000s. In 1996, Lipnicki earned instant fame and acclaim alongside Tom Cruise and Renee Zellweger in the smash hit Jerry Maguire, and from there, he went on to pop up in movies like 1998's Dr. Dolittle, 1999's Stuart Little and its 2002 sequel, 2000's The Little Vampire, and 2002's Like Mike. In the years since his childhood success, Lipnicki has appeared in a string of independent films like 2012's For the Love of Money, 2017's Limelight, and 2018's Andover. He's also appeared on a few television programs, including competition and reality shows like Drop the Mic, a celebrity edition of Worst Cooks in America, and Celebs Go Dating. Though Lipnicki hasn't had a commercial success quite as huge as Jerry Maguire, he's still working plenty.
Dakota Fanning has stayed in demand from the start. Before her breakout role, Dakota Fanning appeared in small roles in commercials and on shows like ER, but it was her starring role in the 2001 drama I Am Sam alongside Sean Penn that really put Fanning on the map. Those toppings are nothing short of superb. Everything from pesto to roasted broccoli to arugula to Asiago, to romaine, to basically anything you could possibly want, all served on beautifully cooked personal pizzas which, get this, all cost exactly the same, no matter how many toppings you throw on top. Just to cinch the deal, Mod is an ethical company who take not just quality but also environmental impact and animal ethics into mind when sourcing their ingredients. They're also known for treating their workers well and hiring staff with special needs, as well as those who have been incarcerated in the past. From there, Fanning became one of the most in-demand young actresses around, appearing in everything from romantic comedies like 2003's Uptown Girls to sci-fi blockbusters like War of the Worlds to fantasy fare like The Twilight Saga. Fanning has never stopped working for a second, and her talented younger sister Elle, Somewhere, the Great, has joined her in Hollywood, carving out a place for herself as well. As for the elder Fanning, her recent high-profile roles include a cameo in 2018's Ocean's 8, a scene-stealing turn in 2019's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and a leading role on the television series The Alienist. Clearly, Fanning navigated her years as a child star well, and moviegoers should expect many more great performances from her for years to come. A good heart and good pizza. Maude is the best. Full stop.